I think it's pretty safe to say that by far, one of the fan-favorite characters of the Skywalker saga, without a doubt, is Anakin Skywalker of the prequel trilogy era and in other forms of canon material that falls under Disney and Lucasfilm. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about The Rise of Skywalker that we do know is that this film went through many reshoots and rewrites in order to change the overall structure of the plot, as well as to change the overall tone of this movie, to really make the film cater more so to a general audience and to have less, I guess you could say, fan service in the movie in order to make the film more focused on the story. Now, moving on forward, when we look at The Rise of Skywalker, we do know that a lot of those reshoots and the rewrites led to a series of deleted scenes in the process. We also know that this movie was a very hard production. It was a very difficult production for Disney and Lucasfilm, to the point where they even had to rewrite scenes while they were on set for this movie over in Jordan and on set over at Pinewood and Cardington. I mean, you name it. This movie really did have a lot going for itself, and it really did have the opportunity to be maybe even a fan-favorite Star Wars movie of the Skywalker saga that would match itself up against the original trilogy. But right now, in my point of view, it only stands as the best film of the sequel trilogy and nothing more than that. I actually like this movie. It's a decent Star Wars film with a lot of flaws in it, but I feel like there could have been so much more because there's a lot of scenes that I love and hate in this movie. Now, what's rather intriguing and unfortunate is that it's explained that both Disney and Lucasfilm went through many changes for the second and third acts of The Rise of Skywalker by going through many reshoots and rewrites of the film in order to create a different tone for the movie as well as a different structure for the overall plot. Now, it's noted that originally Disney and Lucasfilm were going to make the character of Anakin Skywalker a prominent figure in the film, portrayed by actor Hayden Christensen, before cutting his scenes as the iconic character from the prequel trilogy era. It's said that Hayden had a number of planned scenes that were either filmed and completed, partially completed, or only made it to the script, and that these changes to the film, excluding Anakin Skywalker from the movie, is said to be one of the main reasons as to why the art book of The Rise of Skywalker was delayed from December all the way until March of this year. It said that Hayden Christensen worked very hard for some of the scenes that were done for the film, and that part of the meaning of the title had to do with something special Anakin did at the very end of the movie. Many fans around the world have always wanted to see Anakin Skywalker again in Star Wars, and that through the reshoots, Disney and Lucasfilm actually regret ditching the ideas of Anakin's return in a strong way to end the Skywalker saga. It said that these changes were not easy for Disney and Lucasfilm to make, as they know it would not only cost them money, but also change the entire structure of the film from beginning to end. And like I say, I mean, when we look at Episode 9, they made a lot of mistakes with this movie. There's no doubt about that. There are moments in this movie where you do realize that there were a lot of key points where they were trying to retcon elements of The Last Jedi, but it just wasn't enough. So Hayden Christensen, without a doubt, was betrayed by Disney from all the scenes that were planned and pretty much put to the wayside, deleted or cancelled, whatever have you, and only reduced him to becoming a disembodied Force Ghost voice. And what's really interesting is that that line of dialogue that you do hear from Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker, where he says, "Bring balance to the Force as I once did," that was actually a line of dialogue that was originally intended for when he would appear in front of Kylo Ren inside of the second Death Star wreckage, specifically in Palpatine's old throne room, where he would appear as a Force ghost in front of Kylo, turning him over to the light side of the Force to become Ben Solo once again. So that line of dialogue originally was meant for Kylo and not for Rey, and they used it for Rey when she was in dire need of the Force ghost. Now, the thing about Anakin, and of course actor Hayden Christensen, say what you will about Hayden Christensen, but looking back at the prequel trilogy era, George Lucas, his movies had a lot of flaws, there's no doubt about that. But the great thing about the prequel trilogy, and I know a lot of you guys will agree with me on this, is that there was consistency in those movies, and that's the special part about it. And this trilogy that we got, the sequel trilogy from 2015 till 2019, it had a lot of inconsistencies. It was really, pretty much an up and down cycle where a lot of changes were made, things didn't really match up with the previous films, and The Rise of Skywalker is a perfect example of this. In fact, when I watched this movie, and by the way, I saw it twice so far, and I plan to see it at least maybe one more time once it arrives on Blu-ray perhaps, just to see exactly how I feel about it at home. I will say that this movie, you can really tell that it feels more like a sequel to The Force Awakens rather than a sequel to that of The Last Jedi. At least that's how I see it. Because there's no denying that J.J. Abrams, really undid many of the elements that Rian Johnson, put there in The Last Jedi. So, on top of all of this, guys, like I say, what do you think about Anakin Skywalker's treatment in The Rise of Skywalker and how he was only reduced down to a disembodied voice? And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.